Please make sure you have an adult's permission and supervision before participating in this project. Welcome to another Arlington County Office for Teens virtual program. Today, we're going to be making an apple pie. Now, making a pie crust is labor intensive and a bit tricky to get right. If you want to skip this part and just buy a store-bought crust, that is perfectly fine. But here's what you'll need if you want to try your hand at making your own crust. 2½ cups all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon salt, 2½ sticks cold unsalted butter cut into 1/4 inch squares, and 1/3 cup and 1 tablespoon ice water. To begin, you'll want to take all of your dry ingredients and mix them together in a large bowl with a rubber spatula. Then you'll take your butter pieces and place them all in the dry mixture. Now, what I'm using here is called a pastry blender, and that just helps me cut the butter into smaller pieces to ensure that each piece gets coated in the flour mixture. You can do this as well with 2 knives, and you actually saw me using that method in my first video where we made biscuits. You'll want to continue cutting the butter into the flour until it resembles a breadcrumb texture, and the largest pieces of butter are about pea-shaped. Once the butter has been cut in enough, you'll want to add your ice water. Now, best way to get this water the coldest is to measure out your 1/3 cup and 1 tablespoon into a measuring cup first, and then just add a bunch of ice cubes. Now, as you add your water, you're going to want to stir it in. You're going to want to keep stirring until you see little balls of dough forming, and then you're going to want to continue stirring, and then eventually using your hands to make sure that the dough is entirely incorporated into one ball. If you need to add a little extra water, add water about 1 tablespoon at a time as you continue to stir and incorporate the dough. Once the dough is fully formed, you're going to want to split it in half, then smush it down until it's about a disc shape. You'll then want to cover that in either parchment paper or cling wrap and refrigerate it for at least 30 minutes before we roll it out. After the dough has been refrigerated, we'll take it out and work it 1/2 at a time. We're going to place some flour on the bottom of our working area to ensure that the dough doesn't stick. And then we're just going to slowly start rolling it out into a circle-like shape. Once we have our first sheet of dough rolled out, we're going to want to grease our pie pan with some butter and then place our rolled out dough inside the pie pan. Now, one mistake I did make when shooting this video was that I used a cake tin instead of a pie tin. And you'll see later on in this video how that affected it, because a cake tin is a lot deeper than a pie one. Once you have your dough placed in your pie tin, you'll want to trim the edges so there's only about 3/4 of an inch hanging over. And then you will place your tin back in the refrigerator while you make the filling. But as you can see here, because I used a cake tin, I didn't have that much dough going over the sides, and so you see me cutting some of the pieces of the dough and attaching it to others. This is another thing you can actually do if you stretch your dough out too much and you have little tears. You can cut off excess and patch it. Once you have your pie tin in the refrigerator, you can go ahead and roll out the next piece of dough for your top. Now here's what you'll need for your filling. 3 pounds of apples. I use Golden Delicious, so that's about 6 to 8 medium-large apples. 3 tablespoons unsalted butter. 3/4 a cup of sugar. 1/2 teaspoon ground cinnamon, and 1/8 teaspoon salt. First, you'll want to core, peel, and cut your apples until each apple slice is about 1/4 of an inch thick. In a pot, heat over high heat your butter until it is sizzling. Add the apples and toss to coat all slices evenly. Reduce the heat to medium and cover tightly, stirring until the apples are softened but still slightly crunchy, about 5 to 7 minutes. We will then stir in the sugar, cinnamon, and salt, increasing the heat to high, and cook at a rapid boil until the juices become thick and syrupy, about 3 minutes. We will then take the mixture out of the pot and lay on a baking sheet to cool until room temperature. You want to make sure that the baking sheet that you're using has a bit of a lip on it, because you don't want any of the syrup to fall off of the baking sheet. So just be real careful when you're transitioning your apples from your pot to the sheet. Once your apple mixture has cooled, you'll want to take your pie crust out of the oven, take your apples and place them into your pie tin, and then you will cover it with the second piece of pastry dough. Now, if you are using just a plain sheet of pastry dough and having a covered top like I do here, you'll want to cut some steam slits into the pastry dough. We will have our oven preheated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'll place the pie in the bottom third of the oven. We will bake the pie until the crust is a nice brown and that you can see the filling of the pie bubbling out of the steam slits that you have cut. That's going to take anywhere from 40 to 50 minutes. As you can see here, because I did use a cake tin instead of a pie tin, the dough didn't fall over as much as needed, and so instead of just pressing the two pieces of dough together, I rolled them up, and you'll see at the very end this makes for a interesting shape at the very end. But for you, if you're using the correct tin, just press the two pieces of dough together to make sure you have a nice crimp and a nice seal between your two pieces of pastry dough. Here is the finished product. You'll want to leave your pie in your tin to cool anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. And once it's cooled, take a slice and enjoy. We will see you next time.